Hey guys, we're going to try and get going again here finally on the old K600B. I picked up this parts engine last summer, I think, for a couple $100. And I'm going to hopefully pull the head off here today and see if by chance we have, number one, some valve rotators and washers that are, or retainers that are in better shape than the ones I have. Number two, see if we have any other exhaust springs that are good. And number three, I guess there's four things. Number three, whether there are any valves that have less worn valve stems than the valves out of this tractor. And lastly, whether there are any of the valve guides from this parts engine that are a closer tolerance than the ones out of my engine, because I was only able to get new intake valve guides, and I was only able to get 3 of them. The exhaust ones I couldn't get any of, so the exhaust ones we're going to have to reuse whichever ones are the best out of the 8 that I'll have, and the intake ones I'll have to use one of the old intake ones, either from my engine or from this engine. So I'm just going to start trying to get the cylinder head off this one. I get the rocker arm assembly off, and then we'll have to fight the manifolds off probably, and then I can finally undo the nuts and take the cylinder head off and check out what we've got for valve train parts. So I'm going to do that. This engine is stuck currently, I believe. So there might not be much in the way of useful bottom end parts at this point, but you never know. I don't have any information on how many hours this engine had or what it came out of, other than some kind of case. So just kind of a backup and a bit of a gamble just to see if we can maybe get some better parts out of it. That stead's bend is why it wouldn't come off properly. You know, it's good when you got rocks in the top of the cylinder head. A couple of broken springs already. Those are exhaust. Of course, there are exhaust ones that are broken too. The exhaust springs are broken. The rest of them look fine. And there's no keepers off the valves at least, so that's something good. So, take out our push rods, I guess. Oh, yeah, there's some good rust on those, which I'm sure speaks to the condition of the rest of the engine. Oh, I can't even get this one in. There we go. Wow. So yeah, it definitely had some water in it at some point. I guess, worst case, I could actually just take the cylinder head off with the manifolds on there, because I don't care about the manifolds anyways. The exhaust one at least is rotted right through. So let's maybe try to get, those are what, 11/16? Let's maybe try and get the cylinder head off without having to, well, that was good. Without having to take the manifolds off. So yeah, you can't get the what was it, 2, 4, 6, 7th nut. Is that right? 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 7th nut off without taking the temp sensor out. So I'm going to try to lift the cylinder head off and then do it, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it by myself. Alright, it's been a minute. I've got some jerry rigging done here to the engine crane. I don't know if it's going to work or not. We're going to give it a try. I'm going to put a little bit of up force on that side of the engine, and then I'll try and persuade the other side of the cylinder head to come off the block. Let's see how that goes. Camera can't see it, but it is going up. I don't have much space here to work to get a better camera angle, but the cylinder head is going up. Oh, I'm stupid. Remember that nut I left on there earlier? That I was gonna take off later? I forgot to take it off. Now it'll come off, no problem. Take a minute and get all the washers off that I forgot were even a thing, because they're all loose now. Mine is actually missing a couple of these, so this is good. Get over there. Okay. Before it cuts my leg off. All right. Well, see if I can get this out of the way. So, there's the engine block.
The cylinders actually don't look, that one's got some rust in it for sure, and a little bit there. That one looks pretty good, and this one looks fairly good, a little tiny bit there. So I would think that cylinder is probably the one that's stuck. There's really bad, can't get the camera in close enough, really bad rust on the side there, and a little bit on this one too. But the cylinders are just absolutely filthy. This one's actually got a lip of carbon and gunge. So yeah, this engine would need to be fully rebuilt as well to be used, but that's why it's just a parts engine. And then here is the cylinder head. So some of the valves are a little crusty. You can tell which ones are the intake and which ones are the exhaust. So yeah, we'll take this apart and see if any of the parts are any better than the pieces that I have for mine, and we'll pick the best ones, and that's what we'll build up my engine with. This is nothing you guys haven't seen already. We did this with my cylinder head, so I'm just gonna pound this out, get all the valves out, springs and keepers and shoulders off, and then we'll be back and we can take a look at what we've really got. Alright, so got all the valve springs off. There are actually three broken exhaust springs. It looks like all four of the valve rotators for the exhaust are intact though, which is excellent. Can't see it for the spider nest on it. On my tractor, if anyone was following the series, a couple of them had the middle cone for the keepers broken out of the washer on both the exhaust and the intake. So I've got these intake ones actually I think are a little bit different than mine, but I mean I'll use them if they look like they're in good shape. I don't think mine had the big dome on the inside, but I don't care. I'll use these ones, and the intake stem, valve stem seal goes in that end of the cone there. Yeah, I think all of the rotators are in good shape, which is good because I needed, I think 2 for sure, if not 3. But all of them have everything intact as far as the retainers go, which is great. So that part at least is beneficial, and there are obviously 4 good intake springs. What I'm also noticing here though too is that the intake springs from number 1 to 2 and number 3 to 4 are different heights. So I'm not sure what that's about. I don't recall mine being like that, but I'll have to double check. So that's something interesting though. That and the exhaust on number, what is this? That's exhaust side. So the exhaust on number 4 is the same height as the intake. But the exhaust on number 1 is shorter. So I don't know, there's something funky going on with springs. Maybe somebody's already been into this engine before, but that's all the springs and retainers and keepers. And the other interesting part, which I kind of expected, was the only valves out of 8 that move are exhaust for number 1 and exhaust for number 4. The rest of them are seized, at least stuck, maybe not seized, but 2 of them, when I went to take the springs off, were extended out on the cylinder side, and had to hit them with a hammer to bring them back this way so that the keeper would release. So yeah, now the next step will be to probably take all the valves out, wire wheel the stems so there's no oxidation or anything on them, to give us a real idea, because sure, they're maybe snug right now, but as soon as we put them in the engine and run it for 10 minutes and get it hot with some oil cleaning the stems, they'll be loose just like the old ones were. So I think unfortunately we're going to end up with probably even the same valve guides that are in my head right now staying in there, and the intake will just decide. I'll probably go through my head and decide which of the 4 is the tightest and leave it, and then we'll put the other 3 new intake valve guides in. Or maybe I'm mixing things up. I'll have to double check. I might have all 4 new intake guides and 3 new exhaust guides. I couldn't get the 4th. I can't remember. It's been so long, and those who are following along would know. I'll have to double check that and see where we're at. It might just be 1 exhaust we're trying to come up with. I can't remember. I'll have to double check that. I think that might be right now that I think about it. I think we had 4 intakes, so we can replace all the intake guides on mine. And I think he only had 3 exhaust guides, so we'll have to pick out of the 8 exhaust guides that I have, the used ones. We'll have to pick whichever one is the least sloppy and combine that with the valve that's the biggest. And then we'll be able to put the cylinder head back together and hone the valves on mine, clean all the surfaces with a sanding block and some fine sandpaper, just to make sure the gaskets will seal, especially the head gasket on the cylinder side here, because if you have a head gasket leak, you don't have compression, and or you have compression going into the coolant, compression going to the oil, or any of the other combinations, oil and coolant, vice versa, burning oil, burning coolant. So yeah, we're going to make sure that all the surfaces are good, including the manifold surface on mine, because we took the manifolds off. I don't remember. I know my manifolds are in 2 pieces on the floor over there, so I don't know if we were actually able to undo this on mine or whether they were separate pieces, but this was definitely wrought fused together. It looks like it was bolted at one point, but yeah, that one wouldn't come apart. But this manifold is also junk anyway. Somebody's tried to put this is a housing over top of the original, and it's like, I don't know, like JB welded or something over, and this is just
totally gone. The intake manifold is great, so that's a good spare, but the rest of it's probably garbage. It's pretty rough. Luckily enough, though, the nuts look fantastic, so I could probably get the manifolds off this head, no problem. But I'm going to keep all these pieces anyways, because this 600B especially is a pretty rare tractor. The engine's not so rare. It's just I forget what I figured out, like a 160 gas or something, 4-cylinder. But it doesn't hurt to have an extra engine, and I could actually build up the other engine, and then I could always swap it, or I could bore this one over. So it's good to keep it for parts. So anyway, I'm just going to do some cleanup on the valves, nothing too exciting there. And then I'm also going to go in and check which guides we actually need, because I'm not going to spend time cleaning up stuff I don't need to. But I will clean up all the valves, because there's a possibility that some of these valves have a larger stem diameter than mine, which will make them fit the guides better and leak less oil and such. So yeah, and then we can start working towards putting the cylinder head back together and then get this thing running again.